All right. Anyị abịakwala n'ụbọchị nkụzi nke ụbọchị taa. Anyị abịakwala n'ihe ọmụmụ nke anyị na-eme kwa izu. Kedu onye na-abata na YouTube? Ndị na-abata na TikTok? Meenụ ka anyị mara ndị unu bụ. Ndị YouTube, ọ dị ka anyị ga-enwe mgbanwe n'ụbọchị taa. Ọ dị ka ihe niile anyị ga-ede ga-aga nke ọma n'ihi na enwere ebe m kpatụrụ aka m ga-eche na ọya nwa na-ebutere anyị nsogbu ahụ. Mgbe anyị na-ede ihe, unu mee ka m mara. Ana m anabata na-ekele mmadụ niile ndị na-esonye. The Golden, ndewo. Lafoset, mama kpatakwara m aha ahụ, daalụ. Nze na-alụ, ndewo. Nze na-alụ, ọ bụrụ na ewu nwaanyị naanị nze ga-alụ gị, ọkwa ya? Nsogbu adị. The Golden, ndewo maka imetụrụ anyị aka na akara ịhụnanya. ụmụ ọhaze Joy, ndewo Joy. Aha, The Golden, daalụ. Ị ga-edegharị ndewo aha tinyekwuo ya otu ọ na-ebu abụọ. She is Anita. We know that you are Anita. You are welcome. If you are an Igbo person, let me know your Igbo name, Anita. Okay? Iwo bi Ikechukwu. Iwo bi Ikechukwu. Sorry, my brother. Iwo bi Ikechukwu, daalụ. Ndewo. Tina Elonu, Ifenna and family. Ndị a niile na-abata na TikTok, ana m ekele unu. Ihe ọma kpọrọ unu so na ndị bịara bụ ụzọ bịa. Ịfụnanya Chukwu bụ aha gị. Ndewo Ịfụnanya Chukwu. Ya dịrị gị na mma. Etu isi bata wee na-emetụrụ anyị aka na akara ịhụnanya wee na-adị mma. Ana m ekele mmadụ niile wee na-arịọ mmadụ niile ka unu bata. Ihe abụọ unu ga-emere anyị bụ unu kesatụ nkụzi a nye ndị unu maara kwesịrị na ebe a, then unu na-emetụrụ anyị aka na akara ịhụnanya. It is a responsibility upon all of us, on our shoulders, to improve the reputation of this class online, both on TikTok and on YouTube, especially Iboro Nwafọ Igbo. If you are an Igbo person, and also if you know that since you've been attending this class, you have been benefiting from it, we need to improve the reputation of this class online. And one way to do it is to ensure that we have as many likes as we can generate in every class, and then to share the content so that the algorithm would be improved. Ihe anyị na-amụ ebe a bụ Igbo ka anyị si gbakọ ebe a, ka anyị si agbakọ kwa izu. Ya nwa mere m ji na-enwe obi ụtọ mgbe ọbụla m bịara ebe a wee hụ ụmụafọ Igbo ka ha na-agbakọta ka anyị wee kparịta ụka n'ihe gbasara asụsụ na omenala anyị. Karịchasịa dịka anyị wepụtara isiokwu ọzọ nke metụtara omenala na ndụ ndị Igbo n'ụbọchị taa. Ọ bụghị naanị asụsụ ka isiokwu nke ụbọchị taa na-emetụta. Istochukwu, kedu? The Young Sha, kedu? Southern Grape, kedu? Ana m ekele unu, ana m anabata unu niile. As I start and continue, I may not mention everybody's name. I'm mentioning all of you now that are coming early. N'ihi na unu bụ ụmụ akwụkwọ nke eji eje mba, Usekwu Foods. Ndewo, ana m anabata unu niile. Southern Grape, ọ bụrụ na ajụọ gị kedu ị ga-asị ọ dị mma tupu ịjụgharịa kedu. Injinia Usman kedu, ọsịsa ya bụ ọ dị mma, you respond ọ dị mma first before you respond back with kedu. Okay, otu ahụ ka asụsụ Igbo anyị si arụ ọrụ. Vic 6 kedu, no, daalụ, you're welcome. Leah, I see you. I welcome everybody. It's interesting to know that we all are coming early today. All right, Ibu Nwafọ Igbo, Southern Grape Lady. Ibu Nwafọ Igbo. Not being fluent is one thing. Having the passion to learn is another thing. And in this class, we have people passionately interested in learning the Igbo language to get connected to their cultural identity and linguistic identity. Adrian, you're welcome. Welcome you all. Ndị YouTube amatabeghị m ndị n'ebe a. Kedu ndị na-abata? Menu ka mara. Please let me know when you join. I know that sometimes your network fluctuates. It will be well. Okay, right. Ndewo, ana m ekele unu. Mrs. Timothy Do. Ndewo, ana m anabata unu. Rosie Love. Daalụkwanụ. Please keep tapping, keep tapping. You are not tapping to get recognition. You are tapping to improve the algorithm of this class. Maazị aka ndewo, Maazị aka Elinwa or Elio. Aha gaghị edepụcha ya. Lily Gold. Ndewo. Mrs. Timothy Ndewo. Right, so this is not a TikTok program where people come and get hyped or get connected to this. No, that's not what we do. We are here for Igbo. Ọ bụrụ na ị bụ nwa afọ Igbo na-abata na nkụzi a, ị ga-ama mkpa ọ dị n'ihe anyị na-eme ebe a bụ nke bara uru maka ọgbọ nke anyị na ọgbọ nke na-abịa n'ihu. You will understand the importance of this. Rosie Love, anyị na-ekele ndewo. Ama m na ọtụtụ ndị mmadụ amachaghị na ekele a na-ekele ugbu a nke sitere n'olu bekee na-achọzi iwere ekele anyị na-ekele ndewo. We do not really encourage greeting ụtụtụ ọma, ehihie ọma, uhuruchi ọma. We don't encourage that. But I receive your greeting, my dear sister. We encourage to greet in the most traditional Igbo way, which is ndewo, daalụ, no, olia, kedu ka unu dị, kedu ka ị dị, and all of that. But I seriously welcome you with love and joy. Ndewo. Ụmụafọ Igbo niile na-abatanụ, daalụnụ. Ndị na-abịa ebe a kwa izu, unu maara onye mbụ. Nke a bụ nkụzi nke a na-ewetara unu site n'ụlọ ọrụ Omenka app. Nke a bụ nkụzi nke dabara n'ihe omume nke anyị nwere a na-akpọ Igbo Literacy Project. Igbo Literacy Project is a project targeted at Igbo sons and daughters born everywhere in the world to get them reconnected to their linguistic and cultural identity. Wada Sali Ndewo Dalo. That is to say that if you are here, you are fortunate to be part of this project. And we are not asking you to be a docile, passive part of this project. We are requesting that you become an active member of this project. You can be an active person, active member by just coming to this class, sharing this class with your contacts you know that need to be here, and continuously tapping on the screen while the class is going on and participating in the conversation. If you are here, you are an Igbo born, and you know you are born outside of Igbo land, Igbo language is not something you are fluent at. You are at the right place. You are very fortunate to have come across us. But you do not keep this to yourself. Igbo say na ọ bụrụ na mmadụ hụ ụzọ dị mma ya kọrọ nwanne ya. You cannot keep this to yourself. You must tell someone. You must share the content. You must share the live. You must share this class with your contacts, especially ụmụafọ Igbo dịkwa ka gị, ndị na-achọ ịmụta Igbo, ndị ọ na-anụ ọkụ n'obi ka ha mara ka esi asụ asụsụ ha etu ọ dị mma. There are other people that belongs to the second group of the people that come to this class, those that are affiliated with Igbo, either by friendship, marriage, or any other way, or even by work relationship. And they happen to fall in love with Igbo, not just the people, but also the language. And if you are here, you're one of them, and you have the desire to learn Igbo, we passionately welcome you. We welcome you with open arm. You are more than happy to learn with us. And that is because of you that I also speak English in this class. It is because of you that we communicate a lot of things in English. If not that, I am happy to teach my class speaking Igbo only, maybe adding a few English when necessary. Okay? So please be an active member of this community by also doing this same thing I encourage us to do when we show up in the class. Right. Okay. The other thing I'm going to say before I continue in today's topic, as if I have not cleaned the board, is that we have created a Telegram group. Finally, we decided to go by Telegram, which we call Igbo Learners Action Group. And this action group, and I want to say all of this in English, okay, so that everybody will have that understanding at the level. You can ask questions while we go on. Number one, I do not know how to share the link here on my bio because I tried doing it, but TikTok is not allowing me to share additional link, the same place that I have the website of the organization. And TikTok does not have room to share additional link. Same with YouTube, and I have not tried that though. But I am thinking that one way to do that is to put it on DM, put it like a message to people if you request. But if anybody knows any other way that I can do that, please share with me on live chat here. All right. So the group we've created is for people who have the passion, the interest, not only to learn, but to be part of the change that we are about to create. The change on the things happening to Igbo language. In that group, I am going to be able to share more information, take on people's questions, and then we are also going to be able to work on things, ideas that generate from this class that can be sustained for policy change going forward. That is the reason we all need to join hands together. When we come to this class, we have conversations that border on what things that are going wrong, this, that, what can we do? We cannot handle all of these topics, all of these issues while on live class. So that is why we need to have a group, an action group that will help us to have more conversations. Why we decided to use Telegram is it is very effective in community conversation. And while joining Telegram, you can as well hide your phone number so that people cannot reach you and scam you through the group. Otherwise, we would have chosen to use WhatsApp. So when you're joining that group, please set your setting to not display your phone number so that you, at least to a large extent, you are okay on that. So if you want to be part of that group, just send me a DM. I will share the link with you I'm expecting to have several hundreds of DMs by the end of today's class so that I can share that. But other than that, if you know any other way I can share it on the timeline, please let me know. Maybe on my story or whatever. I think I can do that, but not adding it to the existing website link on TikTok. That's a little bit of a problem. TikTok does not allow it. Okay. Mazi John, Emilia, Chinedu, Chidimma Anusie, Glorious Light, Ndioma, Ndewono, None. Unu na-abata, unu na-ekesa, unu na-emetụrụ anyị aka n'akara ịhụnanya, anyị ebidola. Success, ndewo. Right. Anyị nwere isiokwu ọhụrụ anyị ji malite ihe ọmụmụ nke ụbọchị taa, nke anyị ga-akụzi ugboro ole. Adaeze Dunya, ndewo. Isiokwu anyị taa bụ, all right, my it's not right. Ụbọchị taa bụ gịnị? 10 or 11? 11. Okay. Anyị na-ebidokarị site n'ide ụbọchị ma ọ bụ date n'Igbo. We usually start by writing the date in Igbo as well. So I'm gonna do that. Taa bụ abalị iri na otu n'ọnwa ise n'afọ puku abụọ iri abụọ na isii. Okay. Taa bụ abalị iri na otu n'ọnwa ise n'afọ puku abụọ iri abụọ na isii. Achọrọ m ka ịhụ ka m si dee mkpụrụ okwu ndị a mejupụtara date. I want you to see how I wrote each word. What I want you to observe is how I wrote words that have apostrophe, especially with N, na. How I wrote iri na otu separately. How I wrote nafo, which is also N apostrophe. And also puku abụọ iri abụọ na isi. You know, these are what things I want you to observe. All right, I have not mirrored ndị TikTok gbaghara m n'onye na-echetere m taa. Emeziela m ya, ndewo. Okay, ndị YouTube, I say that I think your writings, your reactions will not be translated again today. Let's see how it goes. All right, ndewo. Good. Today's date is this. Also, another announcement that goes to everybody is if you need a one-on-one or customized class, this is our website, the general website of our nonprofit organization, under which we have Omenka app. If you go to this website, you go to resources, you will see Igbo class and you can register. But other than that, our class is free. Another thing that is free is Omenka app, the app we created for the learning of Igbo language. That app requires a massive download by Igbo people, Igbo young men and women. Ọ na-enyere aka, ọ ga-enyere gị aka ịmụtakwa Igbo, tinyere nke anyị na-akụzi ebe a, tinyere nke ị ga-amụta ebe a. Iweta app ahụ, ị gaa na word section, ị ga-ege ntị mkpụrụ okwu ndị anyị dekọtara ebe ahụ, gee ntị ka esi akpọpụta ha, ọ ga-enyere gị aka. Ọ bụ na ị nwere nwata, class nke anyị mere get it customized primarily for beginners, ụmụaka, mana adults can as well register for it if you want such services. Other than that, my joy is to see you here every Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Nigerian time. I have full-fledged joy talking to someone who will be taking home a lot of benefits being in this class every Monday. Ndewonu, ana m ekele mmadụ niile. Okay. N'ụbọchị taa, isiokwu anyị agbanweela. Enwere ihe mere m ji chọọ ka anyị leba anya n'isiokwu a. Ndewo Cross 001, nna m gịnị bụ aha gị, aha Igbo gị? O nwere ihe mere m ji chọọ ka anyị leba anya n'isiokwu nke ụbọchị taa. I have a reason to bring up this topic in the middle of the other topic we were handling. I thought it urgent to touch on this, okay? And maybe 1 or 2 classes we go back. Ndewo Cross 001. Daalụ. Ya akọkwala na akpa gị o. Nke mbụ bụ na ilu bụ ihe dị ndị Igbo mkpa ebe o hiri nne. The Proverbs are a very important aspect of Igbo being. Igbo people do not joke with Proverbs. They do not play with Proverbs. Now, if you are an Igbo learner, when you are learning the language, if you are learning as an adult, you have more work on your hands. The work you have on your hands goes beyond just learning the ABC, learning making words with ABC. So some people might be requesting that kind of basic class. That is good. When you are starting from nowhere, if you are an Igbo person born outside of Igbo land, sunflower, Ndewo, thank you. When you are sunflower, what's your Igbo name if you are Igbo? When you are starting from nowhere at all in learning the language, you are starting from the very basics. You may be having the urge to learn the ABC, the Igbo orthography, and learn how to make words. But as an adult learner, as an adult learner, it becomes very vital, very important that while you are learning the basics of the language, you are learning the cultural nuances. Jay, Ndewo, Jay, it's good to see you in class. When you are learning the basics of the grammar or the language itself, it becomes very important that you also open up for the learning of the cultural aspect of the language. All right, Sunflower, we welcome you. We happily welcome you. People like you are here. They come here every week and they passionately learn with us. And we're so happy to have people who are not Igbo who develop interest in learning our language and our culture. Igbo people are not hidden in the world's history. So we are here to, reconnect all of us to our linguistic and cultural identities. So you're welcome. Right. So it is important to open up your brain as an adult learner to begin to assimilate the cultural aspect of the language. If you are a younger learner, a child, you don't have that as a burden on your shoulders because a child is supposed to acquire the language primarily. And if learning or acquisition begins early in life through early exposure that the parents and environments are supposed to give to a child, if that exposure or if that learning happens early in life because of early exposure, the child has no business wanting to learn the cultural nuances of the language until at least after 5 years, at least. And that is at the age when the world begins to make some meaning to the child, and the child will now begin to have the need of forming the world view. I'm speaking all of these things in English to form the basis to help those that are not primarily Igbo that are in this class to flow along this conversation at the same time so that I don't have to go translating. But I'm going to switch back to Igbo, back and forth, okay? Okay, so it is from that age that a child would begin to have the need naturally of trying to form the world view. But an adult learner is a person who has formed his or her worldview through the cultural nuances attached to whatever language the person must have acquired or learned first. So what you are doing is to reverse, to pick up things that you did not get when you are supposed to. And if you just pick one aspect of that, you are still going to be very illiterate in the language. What that means is that, yes, you want to learn Igbo language, and you've been coming to this class and I've been teaching you, you've been learning from this class or whichever other means, or you have our Omenka app, you are learning all this. You will still be half-baked. Even if you learn all the grammatical aspects of the language that I teach here, when you are not familiar with the cultural aspect of the language. So teaching the language, the grammar, without touching on the culture is like making your cake half-baked. All right. Ụmụafọ Igbo, ọ bụrụ na ị bụ nwa afọ Igbo, ị maara asụ, mara ede, mara ụtọ asụsụ Igbo, mana ị maghị omenala ya na asụsụ Igbo so, ị riri mpe n'ịmata Igbo. Igbo bụ ndị na-eji ilu akpọrọ ihe. The Proverbs are very important to the language. Nke a mere ndị Igbo ji sị na Igbo na ilu bụ ihe mmanụ ndị Igbo ji eri okwu. Ilu bụ mmanụ ndị Igbo ji eri okwu. Ilu bịara dị mkpa ruo na nkọwa ihe gbasara ilu ilu ka eji akọwa ya. The proverbs are so important in the Igbo cultural existence and linguistic existence, to the point that to explain the proverbs, you also use the proverbs to explain the proverbs. It is almost, I don't know if it is possible, it's almost impossible for you to explain the proverbs about Igbo without using proverbs to explain it. Ị hụla na ihe m ji chọọ ka anyị lebata anya n'isiokwu a bụ ezigbote ihe dị mkpa. While we have been in the flow of learning one aspect of the grammar and the other, I wouldn't be an all-round teacher if I did not draw your attention to this all-important topic. And that's why, if you are in this class today, you are fortunate, and please do not be a passive learner. Be an active learner. Ask questions, write comments, share the class. We are live now on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Then do the very least. Keep tapping on the screen for us. All right. To start with, I'm going to say a few things that introduce us to the Proverbs. Nke mbụ, ekwugo m na ilu bụ ihe dị mkpa nye ndị Igbo. Okay? Nke ọzọ bụ na ilu nke a na-atụ taa, ọtụtụ n'ime ha bụ nke anyị amaghị ndị tụrụ ya mbụ, anyị amaghị ndị mebere ya, anyị amaghị ndị rọtara ya, anyị amaghị ndị bidoro ya. The proverbs that go along with the Igbo language, we cannot say for sure when they were invented. They started with a language. Our ancestors used them. Nke ọzọ bụ na amamihe na-esi n'ilu apụta bụ nke gị nwa agaghị akọwacha ya. The wisdom that goes along with the proverbs is inexplicable. You cannot explain it. The way the language manipulates proverbs, you cannot explain it. All right. Gịnị bụ ilu? Proverbs. Otu ihe anyị ga-ekwu maka ilu iji ghọta ntọala ya bụ enwere ihe a na-akpọ atụmatụ okwu. Or okay, mother of mankind, ndewo, ya dịrị gị na mma. I hope you are mothering mankind very well. And if you are a mother indeed, happy Mother's Day in arrears. And that goes to all mothers who are in this class today. Happy Mother's Day in arrears. Okay. The art of speaking, the art of talking is something that is divinely gifted to human beings. Okay? Eke kere mmadụ, Chukwu kere mmadụ, nyere mmadụ ụzọ esi ekwu okwu, kwuo ya n'ụzọ na-adị ụtọ na ntị. The gift of speaking, speech, making a speech, expressing yourself is something that humans possess the power to make it stylistically, to make it in a way it gladdens your ears when you hear. That is why today people go to school to learn how to speak, to be masters of speech, to have the mastery of speaking. In speaking, we do not always speak directly, even in English. Now, one language that has this art, that has it in a very large expression of it, is Igbo. That's why people who are learning Igbo might find it difficult sometimes to understand how native speakers manipulate words and expressions. Today, I was teaching before my meeting with my team. Our team member, who is from Serbia, who I often mention here, she's also in the class. I was teaching her Deze Dunya the thing concerning simple exchange of complimentaries, exchange of greeting. When you see a person, what you say and what you respond. The call and response is something that comes from the innate ability of a native speaker's expression. In science of language, it is called competence and performance. And I was explaining to her that when you hear kedo and you respond odemma, it is demanded, it is expected culturally that you respond again by saying kedo or kedokwano. But it does not always go that straight. When two people who are familiar or even not familiar meet, the status, from unfamiliar, they can easily use kedo, odemma, kedo kwano, odemma. But when people who have familiarity with each other meet, virtually, physically, the status of the two people who are in that conversation comes into play automatically to influence the set of cues, the set of expressions they will use. And I said to her, for instance, in the morning and we met, or whenever we met, and I said to her, Ndewo, she said Ndewo. Instead of asking her kedo, I may choose to ask her most of the times. I may choose to ask her about her family, umuazi kwano, or ụlọ kwano, ndị be gị kwano, kedu ka ụlọ dị? And then the answer will still be odemma or hadichamma, whichever one. It also behoves on her to ask me back, umuazi kwano or ndị nke gị kwano. And there it goes going forward. Now, the foundation I'm trying to lay is our ancestors built up a system of expression that goes with a high level of weight that you do not easily understand at a very surface level. This is where we find what we call figurative way of expression, ilu, being one of them. is one that, in my opinion, has an embodiment of ways of figurative expression. Ilu being a very powerful tool in a cultural communication setting, communicates much further than words can represent almost all the time. Ndewonu ndị na-abata ugbu a, ana m ekele unu niile. Ndewonu ndị na-emetụrụ anyị aka n'akara ịhụnanya. Ndewonu ndị na-ekesa nkụzi a nke anyị na-akụzi. Ọ bụrụ na ị na-abata ugbu a, nke a bụ nkụzi nke si n'aka ndị omenka app nke a kpọrọ Igbo Literacy Project. Anyị na-akụzi nkụzi a kwa izu. Nkụzi nke a malitere mgbe anyị na-akụziri ndị na-akụzi Igbo ihe. Nkụzi a bụ nke bara uru nye ndị na-amụ ka esi asụ, bụrụkwa nke bara uru nye ndị na-amụ ka esi ede. So if you are learning how to speak, it is a useful content for you. If you are learning how to write, it is a useful content for you. Now, if you are learning how to understand, the class is a useful content for you. That's why we're treating Ilu today. Okay. Ilu bụ otu n'ime atụmatụ okwu enwere. Atụmatụ okwu bụ okwu ndị a na-ekwu nke nghọta ha dị omimi karịa mkpụrụ okwu mebere okwu ndị ahụ. I think this is one of the easiest and most excellent ways I can explain that. Okwu ndị a na-ekwu ndị nghọta ha dị omimi karịa mkpụrụ okwu ndị mebere okwu ahụ. The expressions we make, the words are deeper. They convey deeper meanings than the words that make up the expression. Now, proverb is really one of those. In fact, it's the one I would say that carries the weight of, that stylistic way of expression, that aesthetic way of expression. All right. Ihe ọzọ m ga-achọ ịkọwa dịka ntọala gbasara ilu Igbo bụ, yes, our videos go to YouTube after the class. Anyị enwego ọtụtụ videos. Ose ije ndewo. Videos anyị ji akụzi ihe nọ na YouTube ma emechaa class. Ndewo. Okereka, daalụ. Okereka, ị bịara n'azụ oge. You are seriously late, but you're not too late, okay? Agaghị m asị na ị na-emebiri m register taa, so agaghị m apịa gị ihe, o. Mana ọ dị mkpa ka anyị na-abịa n'oge. Ndewo Okereka nwanne m, ndewo. All right. Ihe ọzọ anyị gaje ịkọwa dịka ihe ilu pụtara bụ na ilu Igbo anaghị atụ ya na nkịtị. Gịnị ka m kwuru? Ilu Igbo anaghị atụ ya na nkịtị. What does that mean? You do not say the proverb just in isolation. Peace Ogbenna ndewo. The proverb does not show up in isolation. Anaghị anọkọta tụ ilu. The reason is because there is a proverb to every situation. In fact, there is more than one proverb in every situation. There is more than one proverb in every instance. Ihe mee Igbo nwere ka esi ekwu ya n'ilu. Whatever we are talking about now, so you can imagine the space that proverbs occupy in the language you are learning. How can you overlook the presence of ilu in Igbo language? You cannot. Ọ bụrụ na ị bụ nwa afọ Igbo mụtara Igbo mgbe ị na-eto dịka nwata, ọ bụrụ na ị machaghị ilu, asị na ị maghị ilu atụ, mana ọ pụtaghị na ị gaghị na-anụ ilu. na ịmachaghị ya na ịma ya atụ apụtaghị na ị gaghị na-anụ ilu. That you don't know how to use the proverbs does not mean that you will not hear proverbs when people are talking to you, especially the elderly. I have talked about the presence of ilu amongst other figures of speech or figurative expressions. Ihe ọzọ m na-achọ ikwu dịka ntọala as well. I'm giving much introduction, laying the foundation, the basics for this topic. Ihe ọzọ m na-achọ ịkọwa bụ ihe gbasara amamihe n'Igbo. Igbo bụ obodo ndị hụrụ amamihe n'anya. Wisdom is a very important aspect of Igbo being. Igbo people love wisdom. Being smart, intelligence is embedded in Igbo world ideology, in Igbo existence. Igbo people do not play with when a person is found with wisdom in them. But then, wisdom is also often associated with the elderly. Amamihe bụ otu n'ime ihe a na-ahụta ebe ndị toro eto, ndị megoro agadi, ndị batarala n'ụwa, ndị nọrọla afọ abụọ, ndị hụrụla Christmas abụọ na atọ anya. Right. So, amamihe bụ nke ndị Igbo na-ele anya na ndị nwe ya karịa bụ ndị okenye, ndị agadi. The wisdom is often associated with gray hair. Now, even in the absence of gray hair, the Igbo worldview sees a person who is older than the other person as supposed to have more understanding and wisdom than the younger. Suppose. Is it always the same? No. But today we're not going to be talking about factors that may make this not to be the expected. So, amamihe bụ nke a na-atụ anya na ọ bụ ndị okenye na-ewepụtakarị ya. Now, a very well-grounded elderly person is a person that sincerely expresses wisdom that is associated with the Proverbs in a very proficient way. The elderly often show mastery of the use of Proverbs. I know. We will talk about the supposed later. Right. So, the elderly who are grounded, you see, why I'm saying this is because of exposure, early exposure. Ịbụrụ onye nne n'ebe a ịbụ nwa afọ Igbo, ịnọ na mba dịka ọtụtụ n'ime unu nọ, ịnọ n'obodo oyibo ofesi, ọ bụ Europe, ọ bụ Britain, ọ bụ America, ọ bụ Asia, ị nwere ụmụazị, ụmụafọ Igbo ị na-amụ na mba, ha anaghị asụ Igbo, ị nwere ọrụ. The level of wit that goes with the early exposure to literacy, especially learning the language of your cultural identity, is unquestionable. You cannot equate it. Ọrụ gị dị mkpa ime ka ụmụ gị bụrụ ndị ga-abụ ha ma asụsụ ha na amamihe ya na asụsụ ahụ so. There's a level of understanding, there's a level of wit, there's a level of intelligence that comes along with early exposure to a child's language of cultural identity. Ihe m ga-agwa gị bụ, don't feel offended, even if I say it in a harsher way than I have said it now, because I do that all the time. I don't spare you. And I don't give you room for any excuses. Whether amorogena mbao, you grew up in Ofesio, fine. But then you are an adult now. That's just my own way of seeing it. You're going to have to make effort. Because if you do not do it religiously, you are not going to succeed. All right. The elderly men and women found in Igbo land, especially mostly the men, but in terms of use though, because when we talk about language use, it differs between men and women, okay? Don't get me wrong. It is not looking at one gender above the other, especially the Igbo men that found, they are the ones found using mostly the Proverbs, the elderly. A lot of Igbo women use the Proverbs profusely. I learned a lot of Proverbs from my mother. In fact, I would say from my mother more than my father, because my father was not around when we were growing up. He used to come once in a month, stay 3 days, he would leave until he retired and came back. And by then, one had grown up and possibly was not living at home again. So there is a time a child is expected to adequately learn as much Proverbs as possible. If a child is not exposed to that environment at that moment, at that time, that period, they may miss out. People who grew up with grannies, whether grandma or grandpa, often know more Proverbs than those who didn't. You see how it goes? People who grew up with grandpas and grandmas, especially grandpas and grandmas who were also grounded, who also grew up on ground, who grew up in the cultural environment, they cannot but know how to use the Proverbs enough that you will pick it up. So you find out that Proverbs are one of the things you acquire as you're acquiring the language, especially after 5 years of life. Then also the knowledge associated with Proverbs, something that comes as life goes on. As you grow older, you're going to know how to use more Proverbs, especially if you have laid a foundation for it as you are growing up. Ilu, very important. All right. Ihe ọzọ anyị gaji ikwu maka ilu bụ na mkpa ọ dịrị ndị Igbo mere na Igbo ji sị onye atụrụ ilu kọwara ya ego eji lụọ nne ya furu ọhịa lara n'iyi. N'iyi. Okay. Ihe m dere na bọọdụ bụ ezigbote ihe na-akọwa exactly ihe etu ndị Igbo si were ilu. This topic I have taught it in my other class that I teach younger people, and I extensively we discuss the ilu. Igbo wee sị onye atụrụ ilu kọwara ya ego eji lụọ nne ya furu ọhịa. Nne ya ego eji lụọ nne ya lara n'iyi. Gịnị ka ọ pụtara? I also use this expression in one of my videos that I did during the is it not Mother's Day? Women's Day, yeah. International Women's Day. Right. Yes, Ilu is like an Igbo cultural attire. Igbo people wear Ilu as an attire. I didn't know that what's happening to you, my camera? All right. International Women's Day, yeah. Okay. Nke a bụ iji gosi gị etu ndị Igbo si nwee ezigbote mmasị n'iji ilu ekwu okwu. Mkpa ọ dị na a na-eji ilu ekwu okwu. Okay? What this means for those that don't understand Igbo is that if a proverb is said to you, thank you, Chris FX. If a proverb is said to you and you are not able to understand the proverbs, and it requires for a person who said the proverbs to explain it to you, my brother, my sister, your mother is going to be indicted. Your mother is about to be indicted. The Igbo people will tell you the bride price paid on your mother's head is a waste. I tried to explain this in those videos that I made. If you've not watched my series on the International Mother's Day, Women's Day, please go to the YouTube. It's about 7 or 8 videos I made. We say this all the time, but we do not ask question, why is it your mother and your mother's bride price? So, and in that video, I explained it. The reason is because mothers are expected to be the ones closely rearing the child, raising the child. And I also put it onto the women that they have a very serious cultural role to play in raising the child. That's the way Igbo sees it. So, as much as the men are the ones that are expected to know more of this. Yeah? I tell you, that's my experience too, Oseije. Ndewo. All right. So, why not the man's fault? It is neither the man's fault nor the I think it's the mother's fault, as is being expressed because of what I'm saying now. Because the mother is the one that is closely relating to the child as they are growing up in that early stage. It is in that video. The man might be the hunter in the traditional way, and the man might be anything that takes him out of the house all the time because he has to go fend for the family. That is a traditional setting. But the mother is the one that is with the child while they are growing up. And then Igbo wee na-asị, ọ bụrụ na nne azụghị nwa ya ka o wee mata amamihe dị na asụsụ na omenala Igbo, nne ahụ akpazighị agwa, nne ahụ emetaghị ya, ya nwa mere Igbo ji asị na nne emezighi. One of the most coarse ways, one of the most harsh ways, one of the harshest ways of indicting the mother is what is here. And for those that are not too very familiar, in Igbo land, women are married and bride price is paid. Women are married and there's a bride price that is paid. That money that is paid to the parents of the woman that is to be married is called bride price. It is valuable. A na-akpọ ya ụgwọ isi nwanyị, ime ihe n'isi nwanyị, is valuable. It is an expression of appreciation and gratitude from the man to the parents that raised that woman. Because when you are marrying not just that woman, not just that beauty that you saw, not just that shape that attracted you. You are marrying the content. You are marrying the family. You are marrying the internal build-up of that person, much of which is expected to have been built over the years by the parents. And who should have done that job? The mother, primarily. Okay, so this is one way that the Igbo people expresses the value of the Proverbs in their everyday to day life. You cannot not know how to understand the Proverbs. Yes, someone says women are expected to be silent, super intelligent beings. Exactly. Whether they are silent or pronounced, super intelligent, I agree with that word. That is the burden that is on their shoulders by the society, our cultural society. Now, whether we are criticizing that by virtue of having contact with another or other cultures or not, it is something that we can weigh and know which one is better and know the extent to which one is better than the other. But for us who understand the nuances, we know that so many of us that have grown and passed through life with resilience, understanding, and wit, we know that we are a product of that training. You cannot deny it. And we have also seen those who were not opportune to have the experience, the difference when you talk, meet, and interact with people in your day-to-day lives. Ilu, one of the things that raises a child in a very smart way. Ilu Igbo. So how can you not want to learn Ilu when you are learning Igbo language? All right. With these few points of mine, I know I have convicted you and confused you that Ilu Igbo is an important, exceptionally important aspect of Igbo culture, Igbo language, Igbo worldview. Everything you are forming is embedded in Igbo proverb, right? Okay. Ajụjụ. Ladies and ndewo. Excuse me. Enwere onye nwere ajụjụ? Any questions? All right. Now that you have heard this, and you are in this class and you are learning Igbo, and you have interest in learning Igbo, exactly. And sincerely, yeah, you are expected to know even at first encounter. You are supposed or expected to have high IQ if you are an Igbo, whether you like it or not. I like that, as Success puts it. And I wanted to just say, the issue of IQ and this and that was brought about by the Europeans in the 20th century? I think in the 1940s or something, to emphasize racism as it continues to exist today. I hope that all of you know that is a fallacy. Now wash Mawurende Niger, right? Because this is it. As far as Igbo people are concerned, Ilu is one of the things that is expected to be a the IQ standard for an average Igbo person, Igbo child growing up. If you really do not know Proverbs, there are conversations you will not be involved in. There are places you will not even fit in when you go in the midst of the kinsmen. That is why if you are an Igbo born who lives overseas, when your parents take you home and they take you to the gathering of Omonna, most times, even when you know how to speak Igbo, you get lost. You get lost because you hear them speak in um in Proverbs more. All right. Okay. I keep on appreciating those that are tapping on the screen. It is important for us to tap on the screen, especially on TikTok and on YouTube too, when we come to this class. We need to improve the algorithm of this class so that more people will know what we do here every week. Ọ bụrụ na ị bụ nwa afọ Igbo taa ka ị na-esonye anyị, mara na ihe anyị na-eme ebe a dị ezigbote mkpa. It is so important. N'ihi gịnị, ọtụtụ ụmụafọ Igbo ndị a na-amụ na mba bụ ndị nọ taa ha amaghị asụsụ ha nke ha ga-eji ama ilu, the one we are talking about. We are not here to promote an individual. This is not about me. This is about all of us that are Igbo. If you do not know the presence of Igbo in the world's history, you need to go read about how significantly we are at the center of almost everything that has become the world today. But even at that, we are also today one of the most battered and persecuted set of people, that it is very difficult for a young person who does not know the fabrics of his or her cultural identity to not get confused about his or her identity. That is the reason for an increased level of identity crisis we experience today, because so many other people who have come to understand Igbo relate with them and perceive their weight, feel a little bit agitated, a little bit intimidated about the Igbo people. Unapologetically, unfortunately, that's who we are. So knowing who you are, it begins with knowing Ilu Igbo, if you are learning Igbo language. Okay? All right. Now, how do we proceed with Ilu Igbo? Our topic says understanding Igbo proverbs. I didn't say understanding the Igbo proverb. Understanding Igbo proverbs, even if I had said that the same. How do we proceed in meeting Ilu, appreciating Ilu Igbo, and possibly to the point of using it? How? Number one, it is important to understand these values we have been able to explain. Ọ dị mkpa ka ịghọta na ilu bụ ihe ị gaghị agagide ka ị na-amụ asụsụ na omenala Igbo wee gaghara ma ọ bụ gafere. Ọ rara ahụ na ị ga-agaghara na-anọghị ọdụ chee echiche ma ghọta ya. Those of you that read the Bible, you also know that even Jesus himself, quote and unquote, said a whole lot of things in parables. Okay? And that is an expression of weight. That some of the times when he spoke, the disciples did not understand. I carefully do not go talking so much about Ordinala, but I have invited a priest who is very well grounded in Ordinala, and we have had conversations here. When I do need to talk about Ordinala, I invite people who know more than me. I stay in my comfort area, which is more of the language and talking about the cultural nuances of the language. They were saved, taking fly. Dalu o. Right. So yeah, I talk about ordinala, but not as deep as so many people that know more than I do. Nechi dalu, nechi bịakwara no azoge. Yes, I understand sunflower. I make references to the Bible and mention Jesus some of the times, or many of the times, because I grew up as a Christian. Even though that today I am in the position and age in my life where I am looking at all the belief systems that have made us who we are. Christianity, our traditional belief system, and all that I have been exposed to as a human being. And anybody and everybody who have not come to that stage in their life, there's still a whole lot to learn. So I am at a position where I ask questions about a whole lot of things, and it makes me to learn more. But I am starting from my comfort zone, which is language and the culture associated with the language that I teach. If that makes answers your question. All right. Dịka anyị na-akọwa ilu na-akọwa mkpa ọ dị ịmụta ilu dịka ụmụafọ Igbo. All right, great. Akọwala m mkpa ọ dị maka ilu. I have explained the importance of learning it. I've explained why a child needs to be exposed early to this very wonderful aspect of our linguistic ecology. You cannot overemphasize it. I cannot overemphasize it. The other very important thing I want us to know is how we understand Ilu, not in the words that make them up. That is why I said the words, the meaning comes deeper than the individual words. And this is the way I'm going to teach Ilu in these 2 classes or 3 classes I will teach on this topic before I go back to the topic I was teaching before now. How we understand Ilu. It is very important for us to understand how we understand Ilu, because I have shown you the importance. Today, people have written books about Ilu, but I also need you to know that Ilu Igbo bụkwa nke sitere na Olundi. There are different types of Ilu. There are different categories. One we call generic, general, or maybe you say more standard. And then 2, you have dialectal, regional. Okay. The beauty of Ilu, ihe Ilu ji maa mma magbuo onwe ya, bụ na enwere ilu ndị ya na asụsụ Igbo na-eso n'ogo Igbo izugbe. There are so many proverbs that Igbo people generally understand. Those that speak Central Igbo, at the level of the standard of the language, there are several different proverbs that are expressed. Okay? Hope, I Queen, why are you dying in silence? Gịnị mere? Oh, is it Itopa I Queen? Oh, okay. My dear brother or sister, I am doing that perfectly well. I have been teaching Igbo with English and Igbo together. And I do give time to respond to this concern you have here almost every week. The reason is because 85% of my class is made up of Umuafu Igbo who are learning Igbo from outside of Igbo land, who did not have any or full exposure. Okay? And I am so careful that I do speak Igbo when I want to speak Igbo, and I speak English when I want to speak. I avoid English. So it is a different thing. Osage, okay? There, I am a teacher, a very profound one, and I have mastered how to use my two languages because I'm bilingual to teach my language to accommodate people who are not native speakers of my language, people like Sunflower, and so many of them. If I ask them to indicate here now, you will be marveled. So if you are a very consistent native Igbo speaker, you are here. Whenever you come, know that I speak English for the sake of these brothers and sisters who are here every week to learn with us. If they cannot follow, they will drop, and the purpose of this class will not be achieved. I hope that helps you. Ndewo, unfiltered. So it's good that you spoke out and so that you get satisfied. Ndewo. All right. So, mgbe m si generic, general, or standard, ihe ọ na-akọwa bụ ilu ndị a na-atụ rather nwa afọ Igbo ọbụla nwere ike ịghọta ya because it is coming from the more central Igbo. Enwere ọtụtụ ilu ndị dị dialectal nke bụ olu ndị. Ilu ka ndị a si atụ ya na ka ndị a si atụ ya. Ihe ọzọ m ga-achọ ka ịghọta n'ilu wee bụrụ otu ilu nwere ike inwe ndewo ada Igbo. Otu ilu nwere ike inwe ka esi atụ ya na Igbo izugbe in the standard. Ilu aha bụrụsikwa nke ndị ọzọ na-atụ n'olu ndị ha. I want you to understand that, okay? So that when you hear ilu, when it is coming from your dialect and the same ilu is now spoken by another person from another dialect, do not say, oh, ya nwa mere Igbo ji si n'ilu agaje m ịtụkwa ilu ugbu a. Igbo ji si Igbo na-asụ n'olu n'olu mana ha kwa ụkwara ọ bụrụ otu. Igbo na-asụ n'olu n'olu ma ha kwa ụkwara ọ bụrụ otu. The beauty of Igbo dialectal framework. You cannot overemphasize that. Daalụkwanụ. Ndewo. All right. Mgbe m ga na-atụ ilu ma ọ bụ mgbe m ga na-achọ ka anyị tụọ ilu, aga m atụ anya na ụfọdụ ndị mmadụ ga-atụ ilu sitere n'olu ndị ha. When I will ask you to, say a proverb, I will not write it off that I will hear proverbs that I may not even be conversant with. That is because you may have spoken that proverb the way it is spoken in your dialect. I hope that's clear. All right. Ndewo. Ndị YouTube. Okay. Ugbu a anyị gaje ịhụ ka esi aghọta ilu. Kedu ụzọ enwere ike iji ghọta ilu ya edo anya? Nke mbụ, ka anyị mara na mkpụrụ okwu ndị mebere ilu abụghị ka egosi nghọta ya. Let me say this another way. The words that make up the proverb do not necessarily
portray the meaning. The meaning is usually deeper than the words that make it up. So when you see the words, when you hear the words, the first thing is applicability. Ka esi atụnyere ya ihe maọbụ ihe mere eme maọbụ ihe na-eme eme maọbụ ihe chọrọ ime eme. Ilu ahụ a tụrụ ọ bụ ihe nwere ike ịtụnyere ihe? The proverb that you heard, is it applicable to what situation? You understand? If you are not able to apply it or understand the applicability of the proverb, that is where you may miss it. And it is from the applicability of that proverb that you begin to pick up the meanings. That's why I said applicability is a characteristic of the proverb. Okay? Ka esi atụnyere ya ihe. Ọ bụrụ na ịtụnyere ilu atụrụ gị ihe, ị gaghị aghọta ya. If you are not able to attach it to a concept, you won't understand it. You will not. So it's important for you to have that at the back of your mind originally. The other thing we look at is the group of words and their relationship. Now, what this means is that rather than looking at each individual word, which will deceive you sincerely, rather than looking at each individual word, what it is doing in that sentence that makes up the Proverbs, sometimes it's easier to look at a group of words, what they are doing. Dịka na m kwuo, ọ bịara ngam. This is usually a Proverbs. This is usually a proverb that is generic, but I'm saying it the way you will hear it from Owerri. Ọ bịara ngam, and I'm going to write it. Okay. Obiarangam is a clause. It is not a full sentence. Okay, Nghọta ya ugbu a, o nwere nghọta, is part of a proverb. Ọ bụ o so n'ilu na-agaje ịtụ, aga m edepụcha ya. But I just want to say something about it. Number one, Obiarangam is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4 words. If I begin to search for the meaning of these proverbs, I cannot look at all biara, nga, for me to understand it. I'm going to have to look at it in a cluster. Gịnị ka Obiarangam na-eme n'ilu a? Gịnị ka ọ pụtara in the first place? So that's a better way of understanding it. Now, the Obiarangam in the context etinyere ya n'ilu, ọ ga-abụ otu ihe ahụ ma ewepụ ya tinye ya na ahịrịokwu ọzọ. Ugbu a, ekwuru m ya sị na ihe a bụ Obiarangam. I said it Obiarangam because it is going to be part of Ilu. But because it is part of Ilu, I did not write it the way it is supposed to be written. What did I write? Obiarangam. And let us go back. Obiarangam. And I'm going to write the full Ilu. Kedu onye ma ilu a? For the experts in Igbo, kedu onye ma ilu a? Aga m achọ ka idepụtara anyị ya. Ngwa, those that very experts that do not like me speaking English. Ngwa, gịnị ka ilu a pụtara? Gịnị ka ilu a pụtara ụmụafọ Igbo? Obiarangam abịagbule m. Agaghị m ekwu ya ruo mgbe m ga-ahụ onye ga-ede ya. Obiarangam abịagbule m. And I also would like you to, if you speak Anambra dialect, for instance, or any other dialect, how do you say this proverb? That is not the full proverb, okay? Obiarangam abịagbule m. Kedu ndị ma ilu a? my visitors are not buying me. N'Igbo ka m na-ekwu. Anaghị m ajụ ihe ọ pụtara though. I'm just saying the complete. Okay, unu gbaghara m. I think my ọ ka ajụghere m dị ajụjụ. Achọrọ m ka edepụcha ilu a, ya nwa ka m na-ekwu. Those that know Igbo, I want the completion of this ilu. Tony. Nwafọ. Ndewo. Ndewo. Tony Chicks Oji. Nwere ya ọzọ. Okay, Chinonso na-ekwu now to type Igbo is very hard. Right. You see the excuses we make. You're going to have to type it Chinonso. Dee ya. Otu ahụ. Tony edego ya. Anyị ga-amụta ka esi ede Igbo. Ya nwa ka anyị ji na-amụ ihe ebe a. Ya nwa ka anyị na-akụzi ka esi ede na ka esi asụ. And this is one of the very, very most consistent classes you can get. Usekwu food. Ndewo. Odozi Akụnneka, gịnị ka ị dere? Ihe si ọgọ m egbula m. Anaghị m ajụ ihe ọ pụtara. Ana m asị ka edepụcha ilu ahụ. Mmadụ abụọ agbaala mbọ idepụcha ya. Shaman, which dialect don't you understand there? Obiara bem abịagbule m. Okay. Odozi Akụchi nwe ndewo. Ọlawa mkpumkpu apụla ya n'azụ ndewo. Chidimmanụ si esi ya galela mkpumkpu apụla ya n'azụ. Shaman, gịnị nwa aha Igbo gị? I'm not sure you've told me that. Amaghị m ihe bụ nsogbu na the dialect is a more standard, except Ngam. That's the only thing that is dialect here. All right, nsogbu adị. Ngam, mmadụ edego ya bem, ọbịara bem, which is in Anambra dialects.
if you want to replace it with that. Okay.
Okay. Ka anyị were ihe mmadụ atọ dere ma Chuks Usekwu Foods na Odoziakụ Chinwe. Ọ bịara nga m abịagbule m mgbe ọ ga-ala mkpumkpu apụla ya n'azụ. Okay. Now, for those of you that don't understand Igbo fully, I'm sorry, we may not translate everything in English. If Omande o dalo, iga amuta. As you have passion, the passion will help you to learn. You're welcome. Okay. Mgbe ọ ga-ala, Odoziakụ Nneka. Mgbe ọ ga-ala mkpumkpu apụla ya n'azụ. Ugbu a ka anyị ga-ekwuzi ihe ọ pụtara. Ọ bịara nga m, ọ bịara be m, abịagbule m. Okay? Now, these proverbs have two sections, two segments, two categories. And most proverbs in Igbo have this structure. That's one thing I want you to understand. Two proverbs this proverb has two segments. Ọ na-enwekarị mbido na mmechi. Ọ na-enwekarị the intro and the conclusion. Ọ na-enwekarị the intro and the complement. This proverb has it. It possesses a characteristic of proverbs in Igbo. The first is made up of the first clause. Oberangam or oberabim abiabulem. Call and response, my dear. Crystal. All right. Oberangam, oberabim abiabulem can be translated as he or she that comes to my place, may they not bring my death. Okay? May my guest not bring my guest. May the visit of my guest, my visitor, not cause me death. Transliteration. Okay? That's the first one. Then, Mbogala, when they want to go, let them also not develop a hunchback. Mgbe ọ ga-ala, mkpumkpu apụla ya n'azụ. May they not develop a hunchback. There's a deeper meaning to the deeper meaning of this proverb. And this is found in mkpumkpu apụla ya n'azụ. May they not develop a hunchback. Is a softer way of also saying, may their coming to my place not cause them death, not cause them problem, not become an issue. Ọ bụrụ na onye bịara be m agaghị abịagbu m, ọ bụrụ na ọbịbịa ọ bịara na nke m dị mma, ya lakwa nke ọma, ifeọma ndewo, may they go well. To develop a hunchback there is implying that that visit is a visit that's possibly, potentially bringing them problem. It's not easy to carry a hunchback. Now, kedu ihe Igbo na-ekwu n'ilu a? If you are an Igbo learner and this proverb is said to you, how could they explain it to you? How could you have an issue understanding it. The Igbo people are saying in this proverb that we value our guests. We value people that come to visit us. The way I see it is, if you come to me with a good heart, I will welcome you with a good heart. Come. That is implied, Tony Chooks. Igbo people are known as one of the most hospitable in this our life today. We receive visitors with open hands. Anyị na-anabata ọbịa. Traditionally, culturally, ndị Igbo na-anabata ọbịa. And that is why, let me say this to you, so many times you see our African American brothers and sisters who go to check their identity, their DNA. They happen to be Nigerians, or maybe go further to check and they happen to be 50% Igbo. If you are one of them, you are here and you're listening to me, I bet you go to the extent of identifying Onyi Igbo, an Igbo person who will say, let's travel to Nigeria and get to their village. And I'm telling you, the community will surround you. The community will run around for you. In fact, all right. Ifeoma, what did you want me to say slowly? Is it the Igbo one or the English one? Let me know. The Igbo one says, Obiarangam or Obiarabem Abiabulem Mbogala Mbu apụla ya n'azụ. Obiarangam, if you want to say it in a Owerri dialect, Obiarabem, if you want to say it in Anambra dialect, Abiabulem, may they not cause my death. Mbogala Mbu apụla ya n'azụ. Igbo people are using these proverbs to express their high level of hospitality. It is not known culturally in Igbo for a host to harm their guest. That is where this proverb is coming from. It is not known for a host to harm their guest. I know there are other communities that have this culture. Some of the times we value our guests, our visitors, at the moment they are there, more than our own family members. Like, what I mean is that we treat them better. We treat them with respect. We treat them with carefulness and love at the moment they are there. We also wish them well when they go. May they not bring us misfortune, but may they also not have problem when they are going. So may they go well. If anything will happen to them, let it not be when they came to us, when they came to visit us. There's another proverb that may support this proverb that is similar, that could be applicable to it, that is also said in Owerri dialect. It will say, Osinukwu onye. Now, I'm saying Owerri dialect because maybe another dialect might say it a different way, but that doesn't mean that the representation is not standard Igbo. It's standard Igbo. Osinukwu onye adịghị mma. This is another proverb that supports this, to say it is not good, it is not acceptable if a person visits you and they are going back and they meet misfortune. If a person, for instance, is your guest and they are going back, they encounter, say, an accident, say, an attack, usually Igbo people see it as a bad visit, a bad omen. Osinukwu onye adịghị mma. It is linked one way or the other, indirectly or directly, to the visit they came. The people value the knowing, the foreseeing of a possible problem associated with whatever visit you are going on or whatever journey you are making. What do I mean by that? Onye Igbo na-apụ njem dịka omenala siri, ọ na-enwe uche ịjụ njem a m na-aga ọ bụ nke ga-amịta mkpụrụ, ọ bụ nke ga-aga nke ọma ka ọ bụghị. Ọtụtụ mgbe a na-elebakarị nke a anya mgbe a na-aga ezigbote ije dị mkpa dịka na ije nwanyị. Nwoke gawa ije nwanyị, udu mmanya akụwa, gịnị ka o kwesịrị ime? Turn around and face your front. When a man is going for marriage, is going to pluck a flower that they saw in another compound, and they are carrying wine, and the wine happens to and either breaks if it is a traditional calabash, or pours, spills, wahala dey, ị ga-eme gịnị? Tụgharịa wee lawa. N'ihi gịnị? Ije ahụ, at that moment, it will go into everybody's thoughts. Ije nke a ọ ga-agakwa nke ọma. It is going to be believed that nwaanyị ahụ a ga-alụ nwere ike igbu di ya. Nwoke ahụ ga-alaghachi azụ. This belief goes to the extent of when you are going, you hear the sound of a particular bird. In where I grew up, it is the dove. When the dove, what does the bird do? Chip or whatever. When the dove chips on your left hand, it is interpreted to be, oh, ije na-aga agaghị aga nke ọma. Chidimma ndewo, o ị bịara n'azụ oge, ndewo, thanks for the roses. When the bird chips on your right, oh, ije nke ahụ ga-aga nke ọma. Okay, now what am I trying to bring up? The value of you being the host, hosting a guest that comes to you, and the host, the guest, being the person that is treated with care and love when they are going. This is extended to how we receive visitors. Ọ bụ ihe jọgburu onwe ya n'ala Igbo taa, na dịka obodo Nigeria si dị, na mmadụ, nwafọ Igbo ga-akpọrọ mmadụ bịa n'ala Igbo, ihe emee ya ebe ahụ. Culturally, it is unacceptable. And Igbo summarizes this with these proverbs. Ọbịara ngem, ọbịara bem abịagbulem. Let them not bring bad omen. Let them not bring evil when they visit me or us. When they are going, may they also go well. This proverb cannot be said in isolation. That is one very interesting, peculiar characteristic of Igbo proverb. You cannot say it in isolation. Akwụnụ mana onwe mgbe a ga-anọkọta n'oge January gịnụ egwu Christmas. Gịnụ mmadụ akpọ egwu Christmas, right? Onwe egwu ndị a ga-agụwa for those who grew up as Anglicans and all of that. Onwe egwu ị ga-agụ nne gị ma ọ bụ nna gị sị ka ihe iji aka ikwu ịma na egwu a na-agụ mgbe a na-eli mmadụ mgbe mmadụ nwụrụ. There is application to all of this. That is why it is important for you as a language learner, Igbo language learner, to learn the cultural nuances associated with the language you are learning. You cannot neglect that.
That's why we are doing this topic today. And we'll continue in the next class before we go back to the grammar. Ị gaghị atụ ilu a mgbe ihe ya na ya so anọghị. Now, ọ bụrụ na ọ bụ gị nwa ume nke iru ndewo o daalụ. Ọ bụrụ na ọ bụ gị nwa ka a tụrụ ilu a, obi kwesịrị ịgba gị n'ihe eji atụ ilu. Nke mbụ, o nwere onye bịara n'ụlọ gị maọbụ n'ụlọ unu? That's the first thing. Ọ bụrụ na o nwere onye bịara n'ụlọ gị maọbụ n'ụlọ unu, onye ahụ bịara n'ụlọ unu ọ kpara agwa ọjọọ? Exactly, Former. You need to learn like you are in grade 1. And I appreciate your sincerity and your interest. Okay? And that is the reason we come here every Monday to spend 2 hours. And in addition to learning, like you're in grade 1, you need to learn religiously. Whichever way you see religion, religion is something that we put our heads into. We do it with all our lives. We were taught from childhood that this is what God says from one religion or the other, and we are groomed with that. That is a way to go when you are an adult learner of your language, especially when it is the language of your cultural identity. And I'm speaking this to each and every one who learns, who is coming here to learn. Even different food tastes for different occasions, like burial soup and rice and celebration. Rice burial and that's what success is reminding us. Things that we do culturally, sincerely, application matters, and that is why Proverbs, are a very important, Igbo way of life that go into very serious application way of functioning. Okay, so you can't just say it in isolation. So ọ bụrụ na atụrụ gị ilu a, ihe ga-agbata n'obi bụ ị nwere onye bịara ụlọ gị, ọsịsa ga-abụrịrị e, ma ọ bụ na ọ gị nwa gara n'ụlọ mmadụ atụọrọ gị ilu a. You may have gone to a person's house and misbehave. The father of that your friend will sit you down and say, Imakwana Igbo si, ọbịara nga m abịagbula m. And the father of that your friend may just say this only. They don't need to proceed for you to understand. You don't need to be told what they mean at that moment. Or it is the other way around, that the person you brought to your house as a friend is misbehaving. And the parent will say, Okwemana Igbo say, ọbịara nga m abịagbula m. N'ihi gịnị? Ya ga ịla, mgbe ọ ga-ala, mkpumkpu apụla ya n'azụ. The visitor in my house should wish me well that the visit they paid me will not cause me any problem. I wish them well in return to say that may they go well, may they reach home. So, visiting is an important Igbo thing. We visit, we get visited. It is in the nature of Igbo people to travel and go to a place and make that place home. In America, if you live in a particular place, community, county, or whatever, in that place for a period of time, you begin to gain the benefits of that place as either a citizen or at least a person close to a citizen. That is a concept Igbo people have. When you come to Igbo land and you are accepted and expected to queue in
and be part of the community development system, not acting in a different way that is not acceptable in the land. We receive guests, visitors, strangers. We make them feel at home. That is being hospitable. Ndị bekee kpọrọ ya hospitality. All right. Enwere onye ọzọ ma ilu ọzọ nke na-arụtụ aka n'ilu a nke anyị tụrụ? Aga m achọ ka ị deere anyị ilu ahụ. Enwere onye ọzọ ma ilu nke na-emetụta ilu a tụrụ? In the subsequent classes, we are going to be looking at different proverbs, and many of them will be coming from you. I will take it lightly. I will take it slowly until I see someone writes a proverb. We'll treat it and we'll look at it. Enwere onye ọzọ ma ilu ya na ilu a yiri? Achọrọ m ka ị dee ya. Let's look at it. Ndụ mmiri, ndụ azụ, biri ka mbiri. Ilu a bụkwa ilu na-egosi etu ndị Igbo na-eji achọ ka mmadụ niile biri n'udo. Ndụ mmiri, ndụ azụ now is no longer talking about a person visiting or a person playing a host. It's now talking about a communal setting of living. Igbo people value live and let live. Ya bụ mbiri, biri ka mbiri. Do not allow anything to happen to me, any bad. I won't allow any bad to happen to you if it is in my power. Do not hurt me, I won't hurt you. This is crucial to say in a world we are right now, where in Nigeria, buying people and taking people away has become the order of the day. Igbo people are not known culturally for that kind of evil. Enwere onye ọzọ ma ilu ya na nke a yiri? Ọ bịara be m, abịagbule m. Mgbe ọ ga-ala, mgbumgbu apụla ya n'azụ. And for those of you that are Igbo learners that are here today for the first time, kindly let me know what you learned. Whether you are Anyuko mamiri ọnụ ọgba ụfụfụ. I heard that one recently. Okay. Ọ dịkwa mkpa, Kristi, gịnị bụ aha Igbo gị? Nke mbụ, na idetetụrụ ya and idekwara ya jiri kpọmkpọm eji ede Igbo wee dee ya. Chinyere, okay. Na ị nụrụ ilu a na nso nso a, ọ tụrụ m n'anya n'ihi na ị bụ nwa afọ Igbo, ịma ka esi ede Igbo, ịmatụ ka esi ede Igbo, idetere ụfọdụ n'ime mkpụrụ okwu ahụ. Ebe idete Igbo anyụkọ, nyụkọ kwesịrị inwe ọ abụọ. Idete Igbo o kwesịrị inwe ọ abụọ. Ihe ọzọ ideteziri ya. Anyụkọ mamịrị ọnụ ọgba ụfụfụ. Ọ bụ otu ilu amaara amaara, mana ya na nke a onweghị ihe jikọrọ ha abụọ. Right. Ana m eche ilu ọzọ ya na nke a yiri. Ụmụafọ Igbo ndị nọ na klaasị ha makwa ilu? Ilu bụ mmanụ ndị Igbo ji eri okwu, ọkwa ihe anyị na-anụ. Kedu ilu ọzọ yiri ọ bịara be m, abịagbule m? Egbe bere ugo bere, nke si be ya ebela nkukwa ya. Ya na
biri ka mbiri bụ otu ihe ahụ. Peace. Ha abụọ na-ekwu otu ihe ahụ, mana o metụtachaghị ihe gbasara ọbịara be m nke na-akọwa maka inwe mmadụ onye bịara be gị, ma ọ bụ gị nwa bụ onye gara njem gaa n'ụlọ mmadụ ka ị kwesịrị isi akpa agwa, how you are expected to behave. If you are a guest to a person, you are expected to behave in a friendly way. Your guest is expected to, your host is expected to take care of you. All right, Shaman, Ifoma. Ifoma, why do you consider yourself a foreign Igbo learner? I thought you were Igbo born, but you were born outside of Igbo land. Which one is correct? Ifoma, let me know. All right. Oh, I see. Okay, that explains it. Ndewo Ifoma, thank you for your passion to really learn Igbo, and this is the right place for you to come. Dalu o. All right. All right. Tony Chooks is speaking pure Owerri right now. Uyo mage. Okay. Right, Owerri, ndị Owerri na-asị uyo mage. It is only in Owerri you hear this Igbo. Okay. Thank you so much, Ifoma. We really welcome you. Okay. We take you as one of us. And this is a place for you to be and be with us all the time whenever you come. All right, so Oyo Mage means Olobo Olo Monage. That is a way of also expressing acceptability. It's a deeper way of expressing acceptance of a guest. Okay, feel at home. Uyo Mage. Right? It also touches the first proverb of Berangama Biabulem. So feel at home. Be relaxed. Okay? Oyo mage. Olo monage. The house is ours. Yeah. This is your home too. That's one thing that you may hear when you get to Owerri. If you are a visitor, there was, oh, come, sit, stay. Oyo mage. Do not feel like a visitor. Do not feel like a guest. Feel at home. Igbo people make people feel at home when they come to Igbo land. It is one of the things we are known for. So, let's not shy away from that. Okay? Okay. Enwere onye ọzọ nwere ilu ọzọ metụtara nke a. Achọrọ m ka anyị gafee na nke na-emetụtaghị ya. Enwere onye ọzọ nwere ilu ọzọ metụtara nke a anyị tụrụ. Ọ bịara be m, ọ bịara nga m. Ogo ihe ọma m egbula m. Okay. It also touches that. Ogo m egbula m. Ihe ọma m mere mmadụ. The good deed I did to a person, may they not kill me. May it not kill me. Yeah, when you receive the guest, it's a good thing. It's showing hospitality. May that not bring your death, right? Yes, it also touches that. Ometutaraya. But now, this is more general to ime ihe ọma, doing good thing. You see, when one proverb touches another, that means that proverb is possibly touching another proverb. So concepts about proverbs, they are so interconnected. I say to us, all proverbs are applicable to situations. And I are ilu na nkete. You don't say a proverb in isolation. But proverbs also connect to one another. Otu ilu
nwere ike imetụta ilu nke a metụtakwa ilu nke ọzọ, maybe up to 3 or more. That's why Igbo never lack proverbs. They can't say they've run out of proverbs. Man, you don't do that. You can't. There's so many things to say with a proverb if you are a well-groomed native Igbo speaker. You don't really enjoy saying things in plain words if you know your proverbs. So Ogom Ebulam touches this when you are looking at Ihoma in a way that a person that says to you, Oberangam Abebulem, Yogarela, Mobumbonala, Mbumpapulayanazzo, can support that proverb with another one that says, Ogom Ebulam, may my good deeds not bring my death. So you can now say to a person, Oboye na ikpotara onye a ebe a, ya na-akpa agwa ọjọọ. Ị hapụ ya, o nwere ike ibutere gị ihe ọjọọ. Thank you, Ikenna. Daalụ o. Ọ bụghị ihe dị mma ịhapụ agwa ọjọọ onye a na-akpa. Now, you are looking at two things. You are looking at, number one, a guest that is misbehaving. You are also looking at the concept of ihe ọma imere that guest that came to your house. There's a wider value to that when you are not saying Ogomebulem. So two people can, one person can say these two proverbs to you at a time. There one now. All right. So in the next class, I gajehu ilu ndị ọzọ. We are going to be bringing out lots and lots of proverbs. Today's class, I have used it to lay a foundation, I consider a strong foundation in our ability to understand Igbo proverbs. Peace. Nke anyị na-atụ ọbịara be m abịagbulem ọbịara nga m abịagbulem. Enweghị nke m chọrọ inye unu ugbu a, okay? Aga m achọ ka o si n'aka anyị ndị na-amụ Igbo. Next class is Monday, 6 p.m. Nigerian time. If you are in America, is 1 p.m. every Monday. As long as there is life and breath, we will do our best to be in class. I did not get a lot of questions today, and that is because I think a lot of things we discussed went into our head. In the next class, we are going to be having a very consistent conversation around the proverbs that we bring out. And more of those I would like to come from you. Each proverb, we are going to look at it from the conceptual meaning, from the conceptual understanding of it. What does it say? Gịnị ka ilu a na-ekwu? How does it apply to a situation? Kedu etu o si gbasa, or kedu ihe ọ gbasara? Igbo, they have proverbs for every situation. There are things you will do if you are an Igbo learner, especially if you are still learning the proverbs. Bring your notebook. I know that there are books people have written about proverbs. You can buy those if you want to, but buying book of a proverb does not really explain the proverbs to you. Even if you can read them, you may not understand the meaning. Okay, so that is why inwegodo akwụkwọ ilu ị ga-achọkwa ka ọ bụrụ ihe a ga-akụziri gị ma ọ bụ a ga-akọwatara gị ka esi aghọta ilu. That's why the class we're doing is important. Yeah, anyị na-abịa ebe a Monday niile elekere 6 nke mgbede oge Nigeria, elekere mbụ nke oge ehihie nke ọwụwa anyanwụ oge America.
1 p.m. Eastern Time. In this current time now, it is 6 p.m. Nigerian time. Okay? It is 6 p.m. Nigerian time. 1 p.m. Eastern time. All right. For those of you that want to join the Igbo Learners Action Group, send me a text. Exactly, my brother Chuks. Chuks wee na-akọwasị na ihe kacha mkpa na ilu Igbo bụ ịmata mgbe ị ga-atụ ilu. That's exactly why we are doing this. Like, because you don't say the proverb in isolation. So you don't even know, if you don't know the proverb, when to apply the proverbs. And when that proverb is said to you, the concept or this context rather should explain why the person says that proverb. So ọ na-ịghọta ilu ahụ, ị gaghị aghọta ihe mere ji tụọ ya. Ya bụ na atụọrọ gị ilu kọwara gị ya bụ na ego ejilọ nne gị furu ọhịa. You don't want that thing to happen. That's an important thing you said, Chuks. The important thing is to know when to apply, when to use the proverb so that it becomes applicable to the situation. Okay? So take note of that seriously. So for those of you that want to join the community, Igbo Learners Action Community on Telegram, please DM me. I think that's how they say it. Send me a message privately so that I will share the link with you until we find out a way to display that people can join. Again, I want to say this. I created it as Telegram because we have consulted to find out which is a better platform for a continued communication and action in learning Igbo. Those that need this need a consistent communication. Oboy ila ubua. The rest of the week, ihe ga na-asụ bụ Bekee. Ndị gana ha ga na-emekọ ihe bụ ndị na-asụ Bekee. Tupu ị bịa izu ọzọ, ọ ga-enyekwere gị nsogbu ibido. Consistency is what we want to create. In addition to that, there are things we have discussed here in the class as problems attacking Igbo language and Igbo existence. Some of us can put heads together to generate ideas that can influence policies, and that will not happen in the class here. That needs to happen when we continue the conversation as a community. The work we are doing needs every support you can give it. Ndewo, Chuks, my brother. So we are looking at how to bring as many Igbo young people, especially, as possible, who are learning, who are yearning, longing to reconnect with their linguistic and cultural identity. And the best way to do that online is happening because so many people are online teaching Igbo. More than half, in my knowledge, more than half of who do not know what they are doing, but they are doing that for the money. Because sometimes when you get a content you want to use either to learn or to teach another person, you find out that command neighbor, and you cannot use the content. People are making efforts, but we are looking for people who can be part of a greater, more consistent and accurate effort so that you do not misrepresent Igbo as some people are doing, especially in writing. Okay, ya bụ na ọ bụrụ na ị chọrọ isonye our Igbo Learners Action Community, we have created a community on Telegram. We need to populate it. We need to be part of the system so that we consistently be involved in learning and contributing to the preservation of Igbo language. Zitere m ozi na TikTok. Put a message there. and then I will share the link with you. The link, I try to put it on TikTok, but because we have the link to our website there, it doesn't accept another link. Even when I put a comma or when I put a semicolon, it doesn't. I don't know why. Tony, I wish I could teach every day, but I'm a very, very busy man. Ask my wife. Sincerely, I wish I could teach every day, but I can't. I've tried it in a very different way, you know. At least at this time, I may not teach more than once a week, you know. Other things, that's why we need the community. At least I can be present to take up conversations as we go on, and then when we meet in the class, we consolidate and all that. So, but me coming more than a week, not at the moment. Okay, right. So, but we need to plug in. Ihe m na-akọwa bụ ụmụafọ Igbo, ọ bụrụ na unu na-ege m ntị, ndị na-abịa nkụzi a kwa izu, ọtụtụ ihe na-agba njọ n'asụsụ Igbo, ọtụtụ ihe ka na-emebi. Ọtụtụ n'ime anyị bụ ndị na-amụ Igbo site n'ofesi na ala bekee na ala mba ọzọ. Ihe ihe anyị na-amụghara, ihe anyị na-enweghị ike ịmụtacha ka anyị na-eme ya kwa izu maọbụ kwa afọ maọbụ gịnị ka o hiri nne. There has to be a more consistent effort towards that, and that's the platform we are creating. So ndewonu, ekwufeele m nkeji 13 n'oge m. Ekwesịrị m ekwesị 2 hours after. But I appreciate everyone today for coming to the class. YouTube, ndewonu ndị nọ na YouTube. And like I said, I think your reactions today, nothing is being translated wrongly. I think I found out the button and I unchecked one button that says translate. So, whoa, thank you. And those that joined on TikTok, ndewo, my brother Chooks, ndewo, yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, appreciate you all. TikTok, we didn't do so well in tapping on the screen today. Let's do better. Improving the algorithm of this class is so important. It's as important as attending the class itself. Because ọ dị ọtụtụ ihe ndị mmadụ na-eme online. Na-agba egwu, na-akụ egwu. That's not what we're doing. We are not here to entertain. We're here to save our language. We're here to save our cultural identity. If it doesn't mean that to you, then you may not have understood the reason we are doing what we're doing. So please, take it as a point of duty. When you come to class, actively participate, okay? Increase the likes, make communications, comments, and everything, and it will be great. All right, it was a smooth one. Chukwu gozie unu niile. Ụbọchị nta ka anyị chọọ n'owere nchi. Ilu a ka m tụrụ ugbu a. Izu na-abịa bụ aga m ajụ unu so kedu ilu m tụrụ mgbe anyị na-emechi klaasị. Ụbọchị nta ka anyị chọọ n'owere nchi. Gịnị ka ọ pụtara? N'izu na-abịa abịa anyị ga-ama ihe ọ pụtara. Ndewonu. Nwada Ogechi, ndewo. All right.